Let's imagine that our body is a spaceship designed to fly for 150 years. But most of us, unfortunately, burn out by the time we're 50. Often it's not even due to illness, but because we set off an invisible timer inside ourselves that shortens our lives. This happens every time we swallow our resentment, every time we choose to endure rather than speak up, every time we remain silent instead of making ourselves heard. Average life expectancy is barely increasing. People live to old age, but they often lose their sense of purpose. All their attention is focused on daily life, on some kind of achievement or busyness rather than on life itself. But what if we can still not only stop this process, but even completely reset it, extend our lifespan, and reclaim the energy, clarity, and resources that nature originally endowed us with? I'm Nadezhda Koroleva, and this is the Omline Academy of Superconscious States Coaching. In this video, let's explore whether it's even possible for a modern person to live to 150 years old. And why would we want to live that long anyway? Most importantly, how can we live to a ripe old age while remaining of sound mind and clear memory and maintaining a keen interest in life? Before we discuss the practices and secrets of a long life, we need to understand why we age faster than we could. After all, until we understand the causes of aging, any advice will seem superficial to us. In fact, we very often trigger this mechanism ourselves, the mechanism of self-destruction. How is human life structured in the first place? The human life cycle. First, we grow, develop, make plans, and think about the future. At some point, something clicks, and the countdown begins. It's like a shift in energy from youth and health to old age. And this shift takes place at the level of the emotional and mental bodies. When energy begins to fade, when past achievements cease to matter, and the familiar foundation on which you built your life begins to crumble. Give this a like if you too have been through a period like this at least once. A stage when suddenly your past victories no longer bring you joy, and the meaning of life is lost, and you don't feel like moving forward. In the next section, let's explore what the change in the Earth's energy potential entails, what new order of life is now being established on Earth, and how this might be connected to the process of our longevity. The realization that aging begins in our consciousness and emotions naturally leads us to the question, how does this affect the world around us? Everything is interconnected. This is precisely where the new order of life and the Earth's energy potential come into play. The Earth's energy potential has undoubtedly changed in recent years. In what way? If you've noticed that a process has begun to divide people into two so-called classes, mental and astral individuals. Mentals are those who are mentally centered. That is, their consciousness is most often in a state of thinking. These are the people who live by ideas, thoughts, and tasks, who know how to keep their feelings under control, and who live by their goal. That is, they live in the present and the future. Astral-oriented people, on the other hand, are those who live in the past and are driven by emotions, likes and dislikes, and expectations of others. In other words, this process of dividing people into two groups is already practically obvious to us. It began 4 years ago when the shift of eras took place, and those people who continue to live by their emotions do not take responsibility for their lives, do not transform their life priorities toward tasks and goals, and do not strive to develop their individuality. From an evolutionary perspective, they remain at a lower level of the astral plane. Unfortunately, it is precisely this astral-centeredness, this fixation on emotions, and the desire to receive exclusively positive emotional reinforcement that trigger the mechanism of accelerated aging in most people. This leads to illness and energy depletion. Even if our physical body is designed for 150 years of productive existence, we ourselves, through our astral-centeredness and emotional experiences under the influence of the new era and new energies, trigger a mechanism of self-destruction. Write in the comments whether you can set a goal for a long life for yourself. Let's say you have a goal to live 150 years. If you were to live 150 years, what would you be living for? Will you find such a goal for yourself or not? And here's why this is so important. If it seems difficult to do right now, think about it. The task for every person who wants to live a long life and rise to the new challenges of evolution which all of humanity now faces, is to move from the emotional level to the mental level, to live constructively and effectively, to stay focused, to live by goals, to set tasks for oneself, and to enter a new era. In other words, the new era will require humanity to become thoughtful, reflective, and idea-driven. We will have to transition from being astral-oriented to being mentally oriented. Those who live by their emotions, unfortunately, will get sick more often and pass away sooner. But those who live by ideas and goals will be mentally centered. They will become the people of the new era, of the new humanity. A goal is the greatest factor in prolonging our lives. Now let's do a specific exercise. An exercise to slow down aging and restore our body's resources. We now understand that the causes of aging lie primarily in our emotions. It follows that if we understand this, we can slow down the aging process and restore the body's lost resources. When we stop wasting our energy on unnecessary emotions, when we have more energy left that isn't spent on emotional turmoil, we gain more vitality and more psychic energy. Psychic energy gives us the ability to live longer, achieve more, and take control of our lives. The most valuable thing in the universe is mental energy. And when we waste it on emotional outbursts, on dwelling on the past, or on holding grudges against those around us, we are stealing it from ourselves instead of living. And in this way, we shorten our own lives. Therefore, our task is to learn to live in the here and now, or to live with the goals and tasks of the future. Let's try a very simple exercise right now. Let's sit down and think about what your goal might be 10, 20, or 30 years from now. Stop. Stop what you're doing and think about it. No? If you were to live another 10, 20, or 30 years, what would you do? What's the first thought that comes to mind right now? Oh, I'll have to go through so much more, endure so many things. It is precisely this thought that triggers the mechanism of dying. We don't want to live because we don't want to suffer. We don't want to face challenges, move forward, overcome obstacles, or grow. And what doesn't grow, dies. So let's get back to our task. Imagine that you'll live another 10, 20, or 30 years. Set a goal for yourself. What goal will you be working toward all these years? And it has to be a big one. Here's your mandatory homework assignment. Write in the comments what goal you've set for yourself, one that's even a little scary. And as you work toward this goal, you'll overcome many obstacles, gain plenty of resources and opportunities to extend your life, recover, and fulfill your desires. Therefore, to live, you need to know what you're living for. Setting goals is the most important resource for extending your life. The most important thing is meaning. If you were to live 150 years, what would you do for all those 150 years? Okay, let's say 200. Let's say 300. It's important to get rid of emotional exhaustion, burnout, apathy, fear of the future, and the feeling that you'll have to overcome a huge number of problems. You need to be ready to joyfully overcome future challenges. Every year brings a host of interesting challenges that you can tackle and keep moving forward. Who lives the longest? Conductors, plant breeders, scientists. Those who cannot die because, as they believe, science would perish without them. Why do you think inner responsibility, inner purpose, and responsibility for others are so important? If you want to extend the life of a close relative such as your grandmother, you might say, "Grandma, you have no right to die until you've seen your grandchildren start first grade, or until they finish school and get into college." A person must continue to live. That's why goals determine how we allocate our mental energy throughout our lives and help us direct it toward living longer. When we have a goal, my dear friends, we can live a very long time. I'll say it again. Your homework is to come up with an interesting goal for 20 or 30 years from now. One that will make you want to live, grow, develop, learn new things, stay in shape, and live long enough to see it come true. It's also desirable to actually achieve this goal. You have 20 to 30 years of life ahead of you. Remember the golden rule: anything that doesn't grow dies. In these 20, 30, 50, or even 100 years ahead, you must keep growing, growing, growing. Don't stop. And don't dream that one day you'll just sit back, relax, settle down, buy a little house with a white picket fence, and you won't need anything else. That's exactly the path to decline. For example, at 35, life is just beginning. At 40, it's the perfect time to come up with plenty of plans for the next 50 years. At 50, you can enroll in college and learn a new profession. At 60, start building new businesses. At 80 or 90, make plans for another 20 to 30 active years ahead. It's never too late to change your lifestyle, your mindset, and start living with purpose. Remember, those who focus on the mental realm live longer than those who focus on the astral realm. A goal attracts the resources and energy needed to achieve it. So may we all live long and happy lives. Let's discuss the connection between health and the chakras. It's not just our habits that influence the restoration of our resources. Our entire way of life matters. There is another very important level that is directly linked to our health: the chakras. What is a chakra? A chakra is an energy center responsible for redistributing internal energy on the subtle planes. But each of these centers is also responsible for a specific area of life and a person's self-realization. Since each of us has our own weak spot, our own vulnerable chakra, where negative emotions or heavy energy can get stuck, damaging our health or hindering our fulfillment in a certain area of life, such as our career or relationships. It's very important to figure out which chakra is overloaded, where the negative energy is located, and what to do about it. And when you integrate within yourself an awareness of the causes of your aging, energy work, and practices for the body and chakras, you'll gain a holistic approach to a long and healthy life. And believe me, this is just the beginning of the journey. To continue this journey with me toward yourself and your health, emotional, physical, and spiritual, be sure to subscribe to the channel. Here we'll explore the interconnection between energy, the body, the psyche, and consciousness, and do practices that really work. Everything is interconnected and nothing happens by chance. This has been Nadezhda Koroleva and the Omline project. See you in the next videos.